Ladies and gentlemen, may I please request you all to take your seats and settle down. Our dignitaries on the dais are already here. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very, very warm welcome to each one of you to the inaugural session of the second CII-India Europe Business and Sustainability Conclave, organized by the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, and the Confederation of Indian Industry. To start with the inaugural session, I'd like to invite Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, Director General, CII, to give his opening remarks.
Dr. S. Jaishankar, the Honorable Minister for External Affairs of the Government of India, the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Hellenic Republic, the Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Estonia, the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Latvia, the Government of India, Ministry of External Affairs secretaries, and other very senior dignitaries from the Government of India and other participating countries, businesses from India as well as from our guest countries present here, excellencies, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, a great privilege and honor to welcome each one of you to this important initiative and this important forum, the India-Europe Business and Sustainability Conclave. It's a privilege for us to welcome this very distinguished number of businesses besides the participating members of the governments from these countries who are assembled for the second time for this conclave. And we are indeed most honored that we have with us Dr. Jaishankar, the Honorable Minister of our External Affairs of the Government of India, to be here this evening to this very special session. Our Honorable Minister, you will recollect, sir, when you prioritized this relationship and conceptualized areas of engagement in the last conclave. There's the first conclave that we did, the first edition. You had mentioned, and I was looking through your speech, and we picked up a line, and I quote, "India and the EU believe in a multipolar global order and share a commitment to promote effective multilateralism and are increasingly considerate to each other's geopolitical, economic, strategic, and security concerns," unquote. With that as a guiding principle, if I may say, when we were designing this conference, we have structured it as the second conclave from where we had left last year. It's also been a privilege really to have with us such important senior ministers from countries across the Europe. And here we have, over here, as I mentioned, three very important ministers from the Republic of Latvia, Republic of Estonia, and of course, the Hellenic Republic. Honorable ministers, India and Europe contacts go back centuries. We have been talking about that since morning, and the two sides are working on many, many areas that we have been discussing bilaterally as well as in this forum on the business opportunities. I just wanted to mention that in this conclave, where we have more than 10 of our very senior ministers from India and Europe present to share their thoughts with us. We are privileged to have such a large group, even from our diplomatic corps, about 100 of them, about 400 Indian business delegates and 400 foreign delegates from all the countries participating. This is truly a very, very important business forum. We have 9 thematic sessions, 4 country sessions, and many B2B meetings. We are trying to encourage that through our platform to get more of the business-to-business, one-to-one meetings being done in the sidelines. And we have themed this around tracks that have been identified basis the priorities that we had identified since the last meeting. And the tracks include growth and sustainability, green energy, green financing, future of mobility, digital transformation, Industry 5.0, trade agreements, maritime and blue economy, defense and circular economy. And that's been some of the most important tracks that we have really not only identified as subjects of the conference, but the side meetings that we are doing are also focused on that. I also wanted to mention about the growth and sustainability track, which builds on the recent milestones in the relationship, including the Trade and Technology Council with the EU, the India, Middle East, East Europe Economic Corridor, and the Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investments. On the trade track, which has been, again, we are in talks, as we have been talking since morning, on the EU, EFTA, and the UK free trade agreements, which are indeed in advanced stages. And I'm happy to state that the trade between India and Europe, what we have been seeing being rising significantly over the last decades to cross and near now 200 billion US by 22-23. We are at about 175. The digital transformation track is, again, increasingly visible, and what we have seen in our collaborations and even in, on advanced technologies that we have been talking about since morning, again, in the run-up to the events on healthcare space, in areas of research and innovations in this area of defense and space. We have had a special focus on Europe, including from the Indian industry, from the CII in particular. We have opened a few offices in Europe. We are trying to see how we can get services enhanced for our businesses in these who are actively engaged across Europe in some of these locations. We would really like to see that being expanded in the areas of some of the which I just mentioned. Green business, climate action, e-mobility are some of the key areas. And we are really engaging through our centers of excellence, so to say, on water, agriculture, green, sustainable, and other areas. So this comes at a very, very important point in time of our engagement, and we are now looking at undertaking this conclave going into Europe. So I'd really like to take the advantage of the presence of our Honorable Minister of External Affairs, and we will seek his guidance on doing an edition of this conclave in Europe, maybe next time, that we have done with other countries, other regions, where we do once in India and once in that region. So we would be happy to do that once again. So there are so many things to discuss, so many things to know from you, and with that I would like to really once again welcome our very senior dignitaries and all of our participants to this second forum of this conclave. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. With that, may I now request Mr. R. Dinesh, the President of this Confederation of Indian Industry, and is also the chairman of a very important company called the TVS Supply Chain Solutions, and logistics is indeed a very critical area of our collaboration.
Dr. Jaishankar, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and let me add my welcome and thanks for all of you to join us this evening. The collaboration between India and Europe holds tremendous potential to drive positive change, whether it be through technological innovation, responsible business practices, or the development of sustainable supply chains. This is a very important time when we are meeting. India is scaling newer heights. We are well aware that the economy has set to become the third largest economy by 27-28, which is fueled by strong economic reforms, a large consumer market, mission mode infrastructure, and an young workforce. Going forward, digital, critical, and emerging technologies, including responsible use of AI, will drive India's growth across various sectors, including agriculture, manufacturing, and service. As all of us know, India has taken a clear position in terms of its net zero target and is well on its way to achieve those targets through programs that promote renewable energy and the usage of the same. In fact, many of you may be happy to know that today, India is the second largest country in terms of its registered green buildings with a footprint of around 10.5 billion square feet of green building space. And we are very happy, which has been also facilitated by the efforts of the CII Green Business Center. Considering the sustainability track which is going to cover, or which is being covered in the conclave, obviously the focus is on green finance, the future of mobility, maritime and the blue economy. All of us know that on green energy, India has emerged as the fourth largest renewable energy user with about 180 gigawatts of renewables. To take India forward will require significant cooperation between India, and there's an opportunity for Europe to be part of this journey. Under the track of green finance, green bonds, the access to finance, making sure the sustainability transition is funded in the right manner through private financing is something which we have to all make sure happens. The B20 last year had recommended a global sustainable development fund to accelerate this transition to be made, and we also look forward to that being debated. The electric mobility track will cover not just the charging infrastructure, but also the transition for MSMEs and how do they be engaged in this process. Here, I believe Europe has a key role to play in supporting the transportation transformation, including in battery development. The maritime and blue economy is a common focus area for both Europe and India because we have large coastlines and a significantly large population dependent on the success of this economy. The circular economy is something which has to result in the recycling and reuse of plastics and electronics, which again we can learn from each other and supplement and make sure it happens together. Finally, we are very much looking forward to the FTA negotiations with both EU, EFTA, and we are looking forward that EU is already India's third largest trading partner, but we believe the bilateral flows can be even further increased and encouraged going forward, and that's something which we will cover. We well know about India's digital payments interface. There has been an agreement signed with France in terms of the usage of UPI. We are looking forward to various other countries which are part of Europe being covered in this. Third, how do we intensify the technological sector collaboration both on cybersecurity and biotechnology? In fact, that's a discussion we have been having during our individual meetings with the various countries. I would suggest that there's a great opportunity for industry on both sides to come together to build on the collaborative platform which has been instituted by the government of India and the European governments and leverage their opportunities to have sustainable development, not just for businesses, but for the countries in general and the population who will benefit from this. I would like to welcome the Honorable Ministers on the dais and the delegates to the second India-Europe Business and Sustainability Conclave and look forward to very interesting deliberations and success together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dinesh. Thanks. May I now request our ministerial guests, and I'll start with the Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Latvia, His Excellency Mr. Krišjānis Kariņš, to give his remarks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jaishankar, colleagues, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings from the north of Europe. It should be a deep winter and snow, but it is about +1 degree and just cold. So climate change is affecting us as well. The world is not getting any more simple. I've been in politics 22 years, and in these 22 years, it seems that every year gets a little more complicated than the year before. Not only is the climate becoming a challenge for all of us, but the political landscape is also becoming more challenging. So about 30 years ago, when the Soviet Union collapsed, my country regained its independence, it seemed that there was this fantastic, I think we all called it the peace dividend, that somehow everything would just go up and up and up, and countries would live together in a more friendly manner. but that really is not working out so well right now. We have more and more conflict coming up. So we have now, next week, or this Saturday, will be exactly 2 years since Russia started its war against Ukraine. We have war in the Middle East. We have a North Korea, which is rattling its nuclear arsenal. And we have a number of challenges elsewhere. I think we could call it to the international law based on the UN Charter from 1947. This is being challenged in many ways. And now when things get a little uneasy, usually what we do is we look for friends. So when you're having trouble, you speak with your family, you speak with your friends. And when we look at the state of the world today, I think there is a very good reason for democracies, for like-minded countries and nations to look for better ways to work together, to help to solve the difficulties of the world, and also, of course, for very simple economic prosperity. Latvia is a small country, about 2 million people. I don't know what neighborhood of New Delhi that would be. But together with our European friends, it's 400 million people living in a single market. And that's almost similar to India. You have 400 million and another billion on top. These are two huge markets full of democratically minded peoples who understand the words, the rule of law, in a very similar way. And that means that much easier to move forward when these things are understood and we don't have to fight them. My country is small, but it's also not very far away. It takes a little bit of time to fly because of all the wars. Now you have to fly around certain countries. But in terms of time zone, Riga and New Delhi are only 3.5 hours away, which means that this morning I could actually call my wife before I had my first meeting. And that was actually pleasing. I didn't have to wake her up also, which was even more pleasing. And a small country such as mine, that 30 years ago we regained our independence, we are extremely hungry. Hungry to work, hungry to learn, hungry for new partners. We have an ICT sector which has come out of nowhere. Our banking system went from 0 to 100 in a very short amount of time. In terms of digitalization, you don't do anything in person in my country. It's all electronic. Interactions with the government, interactions with each other, interactions among business. So I'll end my long story and make it short. The EU and India, I think we need each other. There are many challenges that we face, and the perception of those challenges are actually much more similar than sometimes we think at the outset. And my country, as one of the countries within the EU, is very open to this challenge, to this opportunity. And I invite those of you in India here, that's a very mixed auditorium, to take a really good look at Europe because we want to work with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those very, very useful remarks. And we have been engaging with the delegation from Latvia over the last few hours, and we shall deepen it from the point of view of what you really talked to us about the opportunities. Thank you very much once again. I now move to our Honorable Minister from the Republic of Estonia, His Excellency Mr. Margus Shakna, for his address, please.
Thank you, Excellencies. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to be here and to welcome you from the Nordic countries and in the name of Estonia. And you saw that I was using my phone, and I didn't want to be unpolite about you, but Estonia is so secure place. We just announced publicly that we had been arrested during the last couple of months, 10 individuals connected to the Russian special operations and who tried to attack some persons, public persons, assets and so on. So you can be very safe if you come to Estonia, because we are very good. Nobody will be not caught who has bad ideas. But the case is that we are living there together, and we are doing well. And this is a great pleasure to talk about some words about Estonian as well. As you know, we have this digital wonder made in Estonia. This is the case what we have. And of course, Estonia has very competitive tax system in the world. It's probably the best launchpad for Indian companies to the wider Nordic, Baltic and European markets, and you're always welcome there. And of course, the advantage we offer in Estonia is a flexible and fast way of doing business, as well as a vibrant digital economy and a stable investment environment. And of course, in Estonia, in Nordic countries and Baltic countries, what we have very good people, we have very well-educated people, being in global top in PISA test results. We highly value education and thinking out of the box. This is very important to think out of the box as well, to find the ways, because when we started our digital society and all these reforms like 20 years ago, we were not only smart people, of course, what we are, but also we were poor and we had nothing, but we had great leadership to make decisions and reforms. And as a result now today, Estonia is a country with the highest number of unicorns per capita in the world. So it shows that we have the good environment for the great minds. And unicorn, you know very well, is something which is changing some topics globally. And we have them pretty many there. But of course, I'm a foreign minister of Estonia. I have to say good things about my country. So I am doing, but I'm not lying, because I'm very bad in diplomacy. I'm the politician, I'm an honest person. But you can believe and you can check publicly that 99% of public services in Estonia are available online 24 hours a day. So it's a proof that I'm serious. So really e-services, 99% our services, public services, are also in e-services 24/7. And it means, as an example, that we can do things. And all these reforms, all these services, all these digitalization processes and change of governance, we are changing the governance. And if we're changing the governance, digitalize and going on over the e-services, the corruption level went so low after 20 years that we are at the same level with the Nordic countries already. So this is so important, that people know exactly where the money is going, how much taxes they're paying, and so on. And just a last example, what really happened, honestly, I did last week, with thousands and thousands of Estonian people, we're paying taxes once a year. And tax form we do within 2 minutes. 2 minutes. And I didn't spend, and nobody spent even a cent for lawyers. So we can do things like this. But I'm not saying and advertising Estonia, but why we are here is that I think and I see the power and the will and the same values what India has, a huge market, but also the leadership position on technology and innovation. And this is something what we can do together, the Nordic, Baltic countries and India, that we can change the world together. We can have a scale-ups, we can have a huge potential together, and we are more than ready to work together with you, because the next level of reforms are coming. AI and all the other topics are there, so we can do things together. And I would like to finalize as well, because I see many business people here, is that all these reforms, all these developments, what we have done in Estonia, we have done together with the private sector companies. No public sector developments, because we believe that the private sector knows better how to do things, how to change, how to put great ideas on the table. And we have done all the mistakes you don't have to do again. So this is our guarantee, what we can give you as well. So, welcome to Estonia. We have a groundbreaking e-residency program who enables already more than 80,000 people. If you join this e-residency, you are mainly becoming the resident of Estonia, but all the environment of the business is opening for you as well. And through that, it's like a gateway to European market. So welcome to Estonia, welcome to Europe. Baltics, Nordic countries are very safe. And I would like to say once more that let's collaborate, let's put our minds and people together. We can change the world. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for those remarks and those inputs. And I'll now move to our third guest, the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of the Hellenic Republic, His Excellency Georgios Gerapetritis.
Your Excellency, Minister of External Affairs of India, dear colleagues and friends, namaskar. I'm honored to be here, and I would like warmly to thank my colleague, the Minister of External Affairs of India, and the Confederation of Indian Industry for organizing today's event. I just had a very productive meeting with Dr. Jaishankar, an experienced diplomat who has offered his best offices to build a strong relationship between Greece and India, a strategic partnership based on common values: democracy, peace, justice, respect for international law, and rule-based international order. Dear friends, we're living in a unique moment, I think, of transition. India, as a member of BRICS and during G20 presidency, has emerged as the voice of Global South. We need this loud voice in maintaining multilateral diplomacy to offer goods or services to raise legitimate concerns, to promote understanding between North and South, and to provide a sober view between East and West. I often say that we do have some challenging times ahead. Thus, in these challenging times, we need flexible, resourceful, and multifaceted diplomacy. India is among the world's fastest growing large economies and is undoubtedly a significant trade and investment partner of the European Union, to which Greece is one of the oldest members. In a constantly changing geopolitical era, the role of India-EU partnership is pivotal in fostering stability and prosperity. The India-Europe partnership offers unique opportunities and perspective for business. Not only does it fortify economic ties, but it also sets a positive example for global cooperation. Opportunities for Indian business in Europe include access to 500 million consumers, well-established infrastructures, a stable and mature business environment, and a highly skilled and educated workforce. Moreover, the fact that the European Union is a single market without trade barriers between its member states allows the unhindered access of Indian businesses to a large customer base. There is a popular saying, wherever Indians go, there is prosperity. And I'm convinced that the India-Middle East let's hope that it goes the other way around as well. Where European Union goes, there is prosperity as well. So, and I'm convinced that the IMEC, the India-Middle East-Europe corridor, will bring India, thus prosperity, to Europe. Greece My country aspires to be an integral part of this visionary project of IMEC, being the gateway of India to the European Union. This very ambitious connectivity project will enhance the strategic importance of the regions involved, both economically and geopolitically, and promote, hopefully, peace and stability. To this effect, yesterday I traveled alongside with my Deputy Minister, Mr. Franco Yannis, and more than 100 Greek business people, some of them are present here, who will have the opportunity to investigate possibilities and partnerships with their Indian colleagues. Distinguished friends, interregional cooperation, interconnectivity, synergies, and interaction make our world more secure, more resilient, and therefore more peaceful. Please allow me to conclude with a quotation from Dr. Jaishankar's latest book, reflecting the aspirations of contemporary India, but also the perception of the world vis-à-vis India, to which I fully concede. India matters through the power of its ideas and actions as an engine of global economy, a hub of innovation, or a democracy that delivers. India's economic progress contributes to a rebalancing and multipolarity that is still unfolding. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And as you ended with a quote of our Honorable Ministers, from our Honorable Minister's book, it's my pleasure and honor to invite our chief guest for this evening to give his keynote address, Dr. S. Jaishankar, the Honorable Minister of External Affairs of the Government of India.
My colleagues from the Hellenic Republic, Estonia and Latvia, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me say what a great pleasure it is today to join you at this conference. I have just returned from Munich yesterday, from the Munich Security Conference. So I think I carry as much flavor of Europe as my colleagues from there do. And certainly the presence today of the three foreign ministers on the podium and many others who are arriving as we speak for the Raisina dialogue does say a lot about the deepening Indian relationship with Europe. But sometimes numbers are useful as an illustration. And I tried to quantify how I could convince you that Europe is truly a priority today. And one way of doing that was to remind you that the Prime Minister of India during his tenure has been 27 times to Europe, that he's received 37 European heads of governments and states, that I have visited Europe 29 times in my relatively shorter tenure as a minister, and I have received 36 of my colleagues during this period. So I underline these numbers really to emphasize today how deep and how sustained and how continuous the relationship has been. But it is not just a relationship with a continent or even a union. We also have made an effort to engage European countries in smaller groupings, and the presence of my colleagues from the Baltics is a reminder that we will be holding our Nordic-Baltic meeting in the coming days. And I hope, as I discussed with my colleague with Greece, that perhaps one day soon we would hold a similar gathering with countries of the Mediterranean. Now, if I could really, as Indians and Europeans gather in this room and others who wish us well, address myself to what is it that drives the world economy, because that is really why we have assembled here today. And all of you would agree that there are 6 broad elements of that. One, of course, is the production and consumption. The second is connectivity and logistics. The third is technology. The fourth, increasingly realized today, is of demographics. The fifth is of values and comforts, because countries and societies who bond with each other more closely obviously find it much more easy to do business as well. And finally, to the extent we create an architecture, a framework, it is much easier for us to do business and promote economic partnerships. So today, some of the thoughts I present before you are from those perspectives of business, of sustainability, of creating partnerships. And let me start with production and consumption. I think we were reminded by the earlier speakers about the importance of concluding a free trade agreement with the European Union, as also with EFTA. Not just a free trade agreement with the EU, but also one relating to geographical indicators and to investment protection. And these agreements, these negotiations resumed after an 8-year gap between 2013 resumed in 2021. Now, why is this important? It is important because you can already see that our trade levels have been growing steadily, but there is a well-founded realization that we need really a more positive framework for that to accelerate. Last year, 2022, our trade was about, I think, 120 billion euros in terms of goods, and our services trade actually has been growing very robustly at about 30%. But part of the reason why we need a much smoother interface between our economies is that it's important for the European Union to prepare for the India that is to come. And what is that India which is to come? Today, India has a GDP of about 3.75 trillion dollars. That GDP by the end of the decade would be 7.3. By the time we are into our 100th year of independence, is estimated at 30 trillion. And according to Goldman Sachs, by 2075, we would be at 52.5 trillion. So that's an arithmetical way of saying that India is going to be an increasingly significant economy, the second largest by 2075, but certainly the third largest by the end of this decade in national terms. And that is something which the European Union has to take into account. Now, the size of the economy is one. You can also see it in terms of growth. If one looks at India's trade in the last decade, from below about $570 billion, it has grown to almost double that amount to $1.18 trillion in 2022. And the growth in trade is only likely to increase in the pace of it is only likely to increase in the coming years. Now, I mentioned those two, but there is a larger shift which is occurring in India, larger transformation, and that is reflected in making it easier to do business, in making it easier for living, in the infrastructure changes which are captured by our Gati Shakti initiative, in the digital changes which are driven by the digital delivery programs we have, and not least by the enormous talent pool whose quality and size is growing by the day. Now, while those were thoughts about production and consumption, why it is necessary today for the European Union to focus more in India and vice versa. Let me say a few words about connectivity as well, because my colleague from Greece touched on it. He spoke rightly about the IMEC corridor, the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. And when this agreement, this understanding in principle was reached last September on the sidelines of the G20, perhaps all of us were not adequately cognizant of the fragility of existing connectivity. Recent events on the Red Sea, in the Gulf of Aden, have reminded us of that. And it isn't just recent events. If we go back, we saw what happened when the Suez Canal was blocked by a mishap for some time. So the need today to create multiple corridors of connectivity, supporting corridors of connectivity, different forms with their own inbuilt resilience, is something which is vital. And it is vital because at either end of this, you actually have two big production and consumption centers, Europe and India. Now, the IMEC is not the only corridor. There are others. There's a longer one which is being worked through Iran. But I also want to mention some other potential connectivity channels which would be of long-term interest to India and Europe. One of them is actually the polar route. So climate change, I should remind our Latvian colleagues, sometimes can have some inadvertent benefits as well. So there is today a serious assumption that the polar route could actually open up a different logistical pathway between India and Europe, which will go through the Indo-Pacific. I must also share with our European friends that within South Asia, in this region, South Asia and beyond, there are again very big connectivity projects already under execution, and still bolder thoughts in the making. Between India and its immediate neighbors, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, we have seen actually in terms of roads, grid connections, waterways, a very big change which has come about. There is a much more arduous project, the trilateral highway. And in fact, if the IMEC connects India to Europe through the west, and the trilateral highway, when it is done, and we have challenges in Myanmar there, but when the trilateral highway is done, it would go all the way to the Vietnamese coast. So you actually will have a lateral connectivity grid which would connect Europe all the way to the Pacific, mostly by land. So it is surely a thought for your consideration. Now, on connectivity, I think we would particularly value working with Europe, because it is important today that connectivity is collaborative, it is transparent, it is based on viable projects, it doesn't have hidden agendas, and by doing that, we will set before the world a model of how international cooperation on connectivity should work, and we hope that other countries will draw appropriate lessons from that model. Now, the other factor I mentioned was technology, and surely in a digital age, I think we all appreciate the importance of trust and transparency. This is the age of AI, it is the age of electric vehicles, it is of critical emerging technologies, of space, and really of smart cities and smart technologies. And we see this really reflected in our daily lives, in our, in the economic developments that surround us. And certainly in a lot of what we are doing, we believe today that there are opportunities for European companies. The smart cities and smart grids have already demonstrated that, but the decarbonization efforts which India is making, even this massive campaign which the Prime Minister announced for solar rooftops, a lot of these today hold possibilities for new areas of cooperation between us. But there are areas where we cannot be impervious to its security implications. We talk often of renewables, but perhaps we do not adequately focus on what the reliability of those renewables are. Similarly, we are in a digital age. today the entire semiconductor environment, the phrase chips war, is itself an assertion of the geopolitics which surrounds technology. So it is natural today as key partners that we have a Trade and Technology Council. The EU has it only with the United States and India. We recognize the significance of that choice. I met Vice President Vestager in Munich, and certainly it is our intention to hold the next meeting of the TTC this year, hopefully sooner rather than later. A few words about demographics. I think today the skills and talent issue is something which is faced by businesses across the world. And a lot of what businesses try to do is to plug those gaps and ensure that they have the access which is necessary for their continued growth. Now, we have in the last few years concluded a number of agreements on mobility with our European partners. And the plus point of these agreements are that, one, they promote legal movement, and two, they promote movement of certain skill sets. So it is something which fits in very neatly with the consumer requirement at the other end as well. And here I just want to share with people in business I would say almost the explosion which you see in India's talent capabilities. That if one looks just at the last decade, in the last decade, 7,000 new colleges have opened in India, which means 2 new colleges per day in the last decade. There have been 400 new universities, 8 new institutes of technology, 8 new institutes of management, 13 new institutes of medical sciences, what we call the All India Medical Sciences, 16 new institutes of information technology, and 74 institutions of national importance. So I just throw those numbers at you because I want you to grasp today the transformation not just in our infrastructure, not just in our governance, but also in the human resources of this country. And the way we are heading into the digital age, into the knowledge economy, it is that human resource which will actually be the real connect between us. Which brings me, of course, to the importance of values. I think, again, part of the tailwind we have in developing our business is the extent of trust that as pluralistic societies, as market economies, I think we know intuitively there are things we do, there are things we don't do. And the systems, I think, engender a great deal of comfort, which will certainly be helpful to the partnership. And finally, as I said, we need a framework. Today, the world after COVID is looking at a new form of globalization. A form of globalization where we are more secure in our own countries and regions, where there is greater resilience and reliability in supply chains, where there is greater trust and transparency in the digital world. In a sense, I would say the economic description of that very multipolarity which my colleague from Greece referred to. So once again, let me thank you all today for the opportunity to speak to you. And I would like to end in a way with a comment on something which my Estonian colleague said. He said that, democracies work, and that's why we change governments. Believe me, in this country, we know when democracy really works, we re-elect governments. So I want to promise our European colleagues that there will be stability, there will be continuity, there will be more vision, there will be more change, there will be greater reform, and there will be certainly more business. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for so eloquently as usual, talking about the entire possibilities and the opportunities of the possible collaborations, the great story of New India, covering so many aspects as you did, with lots of data that you have thrown at us and lots of ideas that you have given to us in terms of how do we take the business to business links forward. Indeed, grateful for always encouraging our forums where we really focus on business to business collaboration, but the blessings of the governments are so very critical as we do our commercial transactions. I do not wish to repeat or summarize the phenomenal ideas that you have given to us, which we have all noted well, and we would get back to you on some of the areas that you have pointed to us, Honorable Minister, in how we could really extend the business collaborations between our two regions. I'd really like to thank all our participating guests here today, especially the Honorable Ministers who are here with us, and I really want to thank the Honorable Minister from Greece, from Estonia, and Latvia for joining us for this evening. We have had a phenomenal collaboration and participation with all our European friends, and I'm so grateful that many of our, besides the ministerial delegations, the business delegations, the ambassadors from Europe who are present here, thank you very much for that. And we have a very strong participation also from our Indian government, from the Ministry of External Affairs. We have here our Foreign Secretary seated, Mr. Vinay Quatra, the Secretary ER, Mr. Damu Ravi. We also have others from the External Affairs Minister. In fact, one ambassador who's traveled all the way from Greece, I do wish to pick up Mr. Tandon for such a great delegation that he has got from there. And of course, our additional Secretary of Central Europe, Mr. Sahu, and the Joint Secretary Europe, Mr. Srivastava, who's been a part of the co-organizing team for this forum for the second time. And as we discussed, we would take it to Europe very soon with their support and with their understanding. With that, ladies and gentlemen, please join me once again in thanking and warmly appreciating the phenomenal contribution that we have received from this four very, very star ministers from our countries. Thank you.
Mr. Banerjee, may I request you to please give a token of appreciation to our minister from Latvia. And to our minister from Estonia. I'd like to request President CII, Mr. R. Dinesh, to hand over a token of appreciation to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Hellenic Republic, Greece. And to our very own Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, for being here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, a loud round of applause as we end the inaugural session. May I request all of you to step forward for the photo opportunity?